All right, I don't want to make you paranoid, but scientifically speaking, your gut feelings may not be solely of human origin. It's true. They could actually be mediated by microorganisms that are inhabiting your gastrointestinal tract, just as much, if not more, than your brain. I know it sounds a little creepy, but it is true. In case you haven't heard, we are host to trillions of tiny microbes or microbiota, which are inside and outside our bodies. In fact, our GI tract alone is home to 10 to the 14th zeros cells of thousands of different species of microbiota. And these little critters began moving into their little habitat for us at a very early age, in fact, in utero, and they have been found to influence our physical and emotional health in many important ways. And astonishingly, these bugs in our bellies literally have a brain of their own. And there's a two-way communication between the gut brain and our head brain. And this bi-directional connection between the enteric nervous system and the central nervous system is called the gut-brain axis. And that is what I want to discuss in this video with you today. And I want to talk about why everyone should know about the gut-brain axis. Most importantly, it's because if we get a better understanding of the gut brain, it'll optimize treatment and it'll also help decrease the stigma for emotional, mental, and neurological disorders. I'm Dr. Sarah. So before we dive in, I just wanted to let you know that if you want the references for this video or more resources on mind-body medicine, naturopathic medicine, and functional medicine, be sure to check out the video link in the video description. It will bring you to all of those wonderful things. All right, so back to these gut feelings, where they come from. So over the past few decades, there has been an explosion of evidence on how our microbiome, which is the sum of all the genetic information inside our little microbiota that make them tick and communicate with us and produce all these different little metabolites that they do. There has been study after study after study about their incredible power over our mind and our body. And doctors and scientists were amazed years ago when it was discovered that a population of microbes in our GI tract not only produce the majority of the body's serotonin, but also other metabolites, which I alluded to, in neurotransmitters. And these signaling molecules impact our cognitive health, and they interplay with our brain and nervous system in complex ways and in multiple pathways. Now, this scientific finding of the gut-brain connection has had immense implications in mental health, and it is now shifting our viewpoint on the origin and treatment of psychiatric illness. Specifically, we now have evidence that there exists a biological and physiological basis for psychological, neurological, age-related, and neurodegenerative disorders, and it's rooted in the gut. So I recently wrote an article that really goes into deep detail about this gut-brain axis because it's one of my favorite topics, because I specialize in both digestive health as well as hormonal health, as well as mental health, as far as supporting people in their wellness for better brain, gut, mind, hormone, and just overall body harmony as a naturopathic and functional medicine practitioner. And the gut brain just merges everything. Because if you tuned in a few weeks ago when I had another video, or if you want to scroll through my video channel, it talked about how hormones impact neurotransmitters, right? And that impacts the brain. And our gut is actually producing some of these neurotransmitters, which also can impact our brain. So when I went through the article, I really go, like I said, into deep details, but I want to just give you an overview in this video so you have enough to take away to have a basic understanding and appreciation, and then you can dive deeper if you want. So what is this gut-brain communication, and how specifically is this happening in our bodies? So there's different routes that our brain and our gut take to send messages to each other. And the first is the immune system. Now, just as our gut is actually home to 90% of our serotonin, it's home to over 70% of the immune system. And these immune regulatory molecules that they create, as well as also acting as the interface between our body and what we take in and our digestion and the rest, how that processes and how that gets incorporated into our cells. They also impact these metabolites as well as these signaling molecules that they create on our brain and neurological processes. Okay. And they also modulate inflammation, which also affects the brain, which I'll get to later. And then they also are involved in tryptophan metabolism. And tryptophan is the precursor to the feel-good neurotransmitter, serotonin, also B3, and also melatonin from serotonin. So it has many different mind-body effects. The vagus nerve is another pathway it uses besides the immune system and tryptophan metabolism. So the vagus nerve, think of it as kind of a transport superhighway of communication of different signaling molecules between the gut and the brain. And it goes all the way down to our digestive tract, and it starts in our brain, and it has various different offshoots throughout the body. It is a pretty powerful nerve, and it's really important for our inflammatory processes as well as for calming our brain and body down, that parasympathetic or that rest and digest response of the nervous system. Now, there's also the enteric nervous system itself, which is its own little nervous system and second brain in our bellies from the little neurons and supporting cells in the gut that influence the systemic processes of the body, based on also interacting with these microbes from the microbes. And then there is also the metabolites of microbes that act as signaling molecules and affect health outcomes. And some of the examples of these metabolites you might have heard of are short chain fatty acids, branch chain amino acids, and what we call peptidoglycans, which are components of bacterial cell walls, and they can communicate something's not right. We need, we're breaking down cell walls, or it could be a good thing as far as bacteria and telling the immune system to take a look here. All right, so there's your 5 main routes: the immune system, the tryptophan metabolism, the vagus nerve, the enteric nervous system, which again is the neurons and everything that's already present, that second brain in our gut that our microbiome interacts with, and then the metabolites of microbes that act as signaling molecules. Okay, so that's how our gut and brain communicate. Now, let's talk a little bit about gut bacteria and neurotransmitter production, because our gut bacteria and our brain both produce and react to the same neurochemicals. This includes GABA, serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine, acetylcholine, and melatonin, which is again a byproduct of serotonin. And they all play a role in mood and cognition. Now, just because the gut is producing these different compounds doesn't necessarily mean they can cross the blood-brain barrier. Your brain also produces some of these neurotransmitters, but there's different ways that these compounds can enter the brain through the blood-brain barrier, and that might be through the breakdown in their byproducts, or through different pathways and routes into the brain. So it's not like a direct correlation between serotonin in the gut and serotonin in the brain. I don't want you to think that, but think of it as these molecules have a variety of effects even throughout our whole body, throughout our whole organ system. I mean, we're talking blood vessels, we're talking heart rate, inflammation, of course, cognitive process, memory processes, calming and stimulating the nervous system. So all of this also goes on the periphery, and that's important, and that communicates to the brain as well. So my article goes into deep detail about that if you're interested specifically on how these things occur, which is also why we can't just take one metabolite, say like serotonin, measure it in even the brain or just the gut and expect to understand if that's going to fully give us the full picture of how that neurotransmitter impacts brain or mood. I think when we narrow down things into just one biochemical pathway, we get in trouble because of all these various intricate pathways in the body that we're still discovering today. So that being said, that's why I'm a big fan of a holistic approach and taking a wide lens with lifestyle medicine as well as mind-body medicine. All right, so that's on the gut bacteria, neurotransmitter production. We've learned how our gut and our brain communicate. Now let's talk a little bit about when there's inflammation in the gut and how that impacts mood. So things such as stress, diet, inflammation throughout the body anywhere, a leaky gut, and an imbalance between the regulatory and pro-inflammatory T cells from the immune system can contribute to brain inflammation. And this is called neuroinflammation, and it's a role in forming a basis for the interaction between psychological stress, impaired gut microbiota, and major depressive disorder. So all of these factors contribute to what happens as far as inflammation, causing imbalance in the gut microbiota, and that perpetuating inflammation, right? Because some of the bad critters can take over, they can get mad, they can get angry, more inflammation, and the inflammation can go to your brain via these different pathways that we talked about. And these microbes produce these metabolites, they enter circulation, they alter the inflammatory tone of the gut, the periphery, and the central nervous system, and signal the trafficking in of immune cells. The vagus nerve has also been shown to modulate the brain immune response. But the good news is, all that can happen with gut inflammation, there's a means to address it. So how might we address it? Well, some doctors might choose to run functional medicine lab tests, such as a comprehensive stool test, a neurotransmitter analysis, checking out micronutrients, and do you have enough precursors to make these neurotransmitters? Are there inflammatory markers on your blood tests? You might look at an omega index, because research links fatty acids not only to brain health, but also to inflammation and microbiota diversity. So the more diverse our gut bugs are, the better chance we have at, having these different metabolites and alternate pathways to offset any imbalance in our body. So those are some things that can kind of help with the assessment of the gut. Right? These comprehensive stool tests are pretty cool with the information they give as far as what pathogens are there, what the microbiota look like, and digestive health processes, digestive enzymes, inflammatory mediators, all of that can be found in comprehensive stool tests. And that being said, you always want to take your lab tests and not just treat numbers or what is seen. Take a very thorough health history and symptoms and correlate that with what the person presents with. There are foods that can help increase the mood and help modulate the gut-brain communication, specifically foods high in B vitamins, which are neurotransmitter precursors, foods high in magnesium, which is a super, super cool mineral that is also a neurotransmitter precursor and a hormone precursor. There's many different enzyme pathways magnesium works on. And then foods that feed the microbiome. So we're looking at things like fermented foods like yogurts and kimchi and sauerkraut, and high polyphenol containing foods, which are beneficial plant compounds that your gut microbiota eats and turns into different helpful metabolites. Now, there's also herbs and supplements that help the gut-brain axis. You probably can think of one at the top of your head, right? Probiotics. There's actually an offshoot of probiotics called psychobiotics, because these different strains have been shown to influence mood in various studies. There's herbs. Now, herbs are pretty cool because herbs provide plant compounds that your gut microbiota actually chew up and eat. And these produce metabolites that impact the gut microbiome, which also impacts the brain. And they can also take these in and feed the gut. It's a pretty cool thing how herbs work. But specific herbs, specifically for mood, are, if we think about if it's a stress response and a sleeping issue that's contributing to mood, I love the herb ashwagandha. I love St. John's wort for people with low mood. It has some studies as far as efficacy for mild to moderate depression in comparison studies, even with pharmaceuticals. And then rhodiola is great for like kind of that low mood, low depressive energy. And saffron has been shown in a lot of studies to help with depression. I shouldn't say a lot, I don't want to mislead you. It's been found in an impressive amount of studies to help with depression. And then there's supplements such as neurotransmitter precursors, which are what we kind of discussed in the foods, like B vitamins, magnesium, and then fatty acids like fish oil. Okay, those can all be helpful. And then there's lifestyle things that I always talk about with my clients. Are they getting enough movement? Are they sleeping okay? Are they doing enough for stress reduction? These all impact the gut-brain axis. So our moods, as you can see, aren't just stemming from our brains. We literally have gut feelings in a second brain, and it's not just human oriented. It is microbial based. This bi-directional communication from our gut to a brain, it occurs through these different pathways that we talked about, these different microbiota metabolites, how it modulates inflammation, and then this interplay with the vagus nerve and producing these neurosteroids and neurotransmitters. Cool thing is, integrative medical practitioners can now work with conventional mental health care to ensure that these biological and neurological aspects are getting supported for the gut brain. And this will likely improve efficacy in treatment, and we can get somewhere make more of a dent than we are right now in mental health. Because again, a lot of times in mental health, therapy is great, cognitive behavioral therapy, it really addresses the psychological aspect, but we need to address the biology as well as the neurochemistry at the base level as well. And this can be done through diet, nutrients, herbal approaches, and lifestyle that I talked about. I feel that if we understand this, the more I talk about how hormones influence mood, the more I talk about the gut microbiota influencing mood and mental health, the more we talk about all of these different brain factors, right? Genetics, lifestyle, all of these things, that blood sugar that influence emotions and mood and mind and brain health. I'm hoping that this will decrease stigma in mental health and help people really take charge of their emotions and their mood and their brain, because really our gut brain and our brain in our head really modulate all these different physical symptoms too. So we need to start there as well. And of course, there's also a heart brain. So everything is connected. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a really cool, fascinating topic, perfectly appropriate right now as I'm recording this at the end of September because it's a little creepy and it's almost Halloween. And I just want to thank you for taking time out of your day to learn more about holistic and naturopathic medicine. And have you, please, if you want, take a look at the resources like this video and share it and get the word out there. My passion and my privilege is to spread free information to help us take better care of ourselves, help us support our mind, body, and to end the stigma in mental health. I will see you real soon. Take gentle care. Bye for now.